time to be the GOAT. It's time to enter God mode, man, let's get it going. I wanna be the greatest, energy is overflowing. I know I'm stoking the fire, my desire's taking over, not time.
Okay, you beautiful friends, welcome back to the Bag of the Semi Truck, and you can tell by the thumbnail, you can tell by the title, we are about to be jumping into more of Princess Bubblegum's backstory, or at least I'm hoping this is more of her backstory, because I'm getting the gist that this episode review that we're about to be on is for Season 10, Episode 4, Bonnibel Bubblegum, or Bonnibel, or however you pronounce that word. Y'all know what I mean. It's Bonnie, Princess Bubblegum, PB, whatever we want to call her. But this is an episode review, and judging by the thumbnail, if I'm being honest, by the way, I can't remember the individual who did this video that we're about to go over, but I will have their channel and this original video in the description and the pinned comment like I always do. Now, as I was about to say, judging by the thumbnail, I'm presuming we're going to get more backstory of Bonnie / Princess Bubblegum. And hopefully after this one, I'll feel like I can jump into aspects of why people think she's a villain, or just find a video that is in that same vein of explaining the villainous aspects of some of her, other characteristics. Hopefully I'm explaining what I'm thinking in my head correctly, but sometimes my words don't come out right. Sometimes, they come out a little jumbled, but I think y'all get the gist of what I'm saying. After this one, I think I feel comfortable enough to actually jump into more backstory of why people think she's a villain as opposed to who she is as a character. And then we could just jump into something else about Adventure Time and then just keep moving forward with that. So let's go ahead and do this. I don't have anything else to say here at the beginning other than let's do the commentary mode. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, and play. Cartoons teach us about second chances. That's why I need a second chance to hit that play button. Let's try one more time. 3, 2, 1, and play.
Bonnibel Bubblegum is the episode in which we find out the origin story behind Uncle Gumball, and wow, those retcons. So much massive, fantastical retconning. But I am getting ahead of myself. The episode starts with...
Pause. Okay, so I didn't do like I normally do. I know I'm only 14 seconds in, by the way. I didn't do like I normally do and kind of get like a quick little 10 to 15 second little glimpse into this, video to find out if that's what was going to happen. But he literally just told us that this is going to be about the origin of the Uncle Gumball. I don't know what I'm feeling about that. I hope this is more than just just about him. Because, I don't know. Either way, we're going to roll with it and find out whether or not it's more than just about him. Let's continue and play.
Then Jake, Bonnie, and Marcy relaxing at a beautiful sparkling apple juice swimming hole. Some excellent set design. That looks like such a luxurious place to kick back. So the goblet BMO acquired by trading away Finn's baby teeth ends up being a key item. It spurs PB's memory.
Pause. Okay, so I missed something there. BMO traded in Finn's baby teeth to get that body? Okay, so y'all glazed over a lot of lore in Adventure Time Foot of a Ferret, because originally I used Foot of a Ferret to get the story, overarching story of Adventure Time. Y'all could have added that BMO traded Finn's baby teeth in. That feels like an aspect that doesn't need to just be glazed over or just not mentioned at all. Either way, let's continue and play.
Of her uncle, although she doesn't become aware that it's the exact same goblet until the end of the episode. We get a story of what happened like 800 years ago after Nettie first started suckling at the roots of the infamous tree the Candy Kingdom is based around, but before we see the events with Shoko that occur in the episode The Vault. The river of mutagenic ooze was already flowing through the area, but wasn't as big of an issue back then. A young Bonnibel Bubblegum rides on her yak across the wasteland, gathering scraps of technology and other items that catch her interest, and sometimes running into other beings trying to survive by whatever means available to them. The gas station where she finds the family photo and the mug that will eventually be a gift to Gumball is actually quite the haunting premise, and I'm going to have a side video discussing this tract in more detail so as to not derail this review too much. The wasteland in general is filled with tons of human leftovers, including wreckage that looks somewhat similar to a stealth bomber that people have left graffiti and messages on. The episode does a fantastic job of establishing the atmosphere of the landscape with set pieces like these, and also establishing the kind of loneliness that plagues both the world and Bonnibel herself at this current moment in time.
Pause. Okay, so judging by, like he's saying, the atmosphere and the surroundings, judging by that, it feels weird that Bubblegum and Marceline haven't kind of crossed paths sooner than they did then, because we're talking about 800 years ago, and we're here talking about Bonnie then. I didn't realize Bonnie was alive all this time, and she was just kind of trolling along, getting things here and there and picking stuff up and just doing whatever she does with it. I mean, and plus then there's the gas station. It made me wonder in my head, hey, is that the same gas station? I know there's a video out there about the story of the gas station, so I don't know if there's like a real legit video of that and there's a real legit story or not, but maybe that could be like a quickie video for us or something. I don't know. But yeah, this is interesting. I had no clue that, Bubblegum has been alive this long. I knew she was, like around for a while, but not like this. This is 800 years ago, which means she was possibly, well, she wasn't here 1,000 years ago like Marceline. I don't know, I can't remember when she dripped from the mother gum. I don't know. Let's continue and play.
Bonnie decides that she wants to be around others like her. She's happy Nettie can be content with just the tree roots, but desires more companionship in her own life than what can be offered by living with just Nettie.
It was a lot different back in the mother gum. We all had each other's backs.
This raises a whole lot of questions. For one, what happened to all those other beings that were part of the mother gum? They would eventually have split off into their own individuals as well, would they not? Did these gum people migrate across the land and not stay in contact with each other?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I was paying attention to the mother gum in the last video that we did about Adventure Time. I was thinking to myself, I see so many faces in there. Where are the rest of them? Where is all these various different ones that dripped off the mother gum? I mean, we got Nettie, we got, Bonnie, I guess we got Uncle Gumball. I can't remember. Well, then again, I think this episode is the one where he said at the beginning where it's going to retcon a lot of stuff. So now we're going to have a whole nother origin for, Uncle Gumball. So, okay, but there would be hundreds upon hundreds, probably other people or other gumballs that dripped, or maybe they just all died. I don't know. Let's continue though. And play.
Or on a darker note, did something tragic happen to the mother gum after Bonnie and Nettie split from it? Is that why Bonnie felt her only option was to create new gum people, rather than find and meet them out in the world? Speaking of creating gum people, did Bonnie find a bunch of regular old gum to use for the process? Or was this perhaps leftover remnants of the deceased mother gum which she brought back to reanimate? It takes an even darker edge if Bonnie created new gum relatives from the deceased husks of flesh of her real relatives. And on the subject of gum family, I have to bring up the Duke.
pause before we jump into the Duke. You're bringing up way too many questions and thinking about this way too much, I think, my dude. Granted, that's not a bad thing, because if you don't think about it too much, how are you going to come up with theories? But they do bring up a good point. I mean, it is pretty dark to think about, hey, maybe she's trying to reanimate. That's what I almost said. She's trying to reanimate previous bubblegum blobs that are possibly dead carcasses. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, let's continue here. The Duke. Play.
In Princess Bubblegum's room, there are pictures of what look to be other gum people of different colors. While it's likely this is simply Season 1 background decor that has since been abandoned in terms of having any importance, perhaps it is possible that at some point between this flashback and the current time, Bonnie did meet other gum people. Perhaps there was more than a single mother gum. Maybe there was an orange one and a purple one in addition to the pink one Bonnie herself spawned from. I seriously doubt we will get any solid answers to these questions. It's empty space in the lore that we will have to fill with our own hypotheses. So Bonnie creates Aunt Lolly. I could have sworn it was Aunt Molly at first, but the credits confirm it is indeed Lolly, Cousin Chicle, and Uncle Gumball. Lolly and Chicle mostly take a backseat in this backstory, and their agency is pretty much in line with Gumball's. There's really nothing for me to comment about Aunt Lolly. As for Cousin Chicle, I love Tom Kenny, but Chicle's voice just sounds way too similar to Ice King's. I wish it was differentiated a bit more. And as for Gumball, I have to wonder if perhaps giving him that mug right after his creation may have left a bad impression on him. Did giving him the thought that he is the greatest create a slippery slope toward a superiority complex within him? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say probably. Bonnie did have a decent chunk of time though where she had a happy family life, as the four worked on developing their plot of land more and more. A fun detail is how the first shack had a sign with the German word Vorsicht, I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, which means caution or beware in German, indicating how Bonnie wanted others to stay away from her home. Then, prior to creating her candy relatives, the sign read Willkommen, which means welcome in German, as PB was wanting to bring new people into her life and all.
Cool. Okay. I had no idea they were placing German words there. I'm presuming... Wow, wait, whoa, hold on now. Granted, yes, what picture I have now says, Welcome Candy Town, but if I'm judging by what I'm seeing there, I'm going to take a presumption and say that maybe she was in what was the wastelands of Germany? Because obviously that means you had to get that sign from somewhere. And she obviously knew the language of the land. So she ended up finding a sign that said caution and just kind of putting it up there, telling everybody, hey, caution, don't come here, leave me alone. And then found a welcome sign in German? Maybe that's where she was, is the wastelands of Germany. I don't know. But that sign that she has there actually looks new, so she didn't go out and find that in, all that. So obviously, yeah, maybe. That's a headcanon I'm about to start running with, that, Candy Kingdom is in the wastelands of what used to be Germany. Sounds like a plausible theory to me. Let's continue and play.
And then, eventually, the sign becomes Welcome to Candy Town. It's a neat little evolution. Perhaps the reason Bonnie is prone to saying words or phrases in German throughout the series is because a lot of the writing she found back in this point in time just so happened to be in German. So all was good for a little while, but then Uncle Gumball decides he wants to take the reign on things and be the head honcho of land development, and chops down all the taffy trees to start developing his city and his lifestyle brand.
And here at this site, my great Uncle Gumball cut down all these taffy trees in a single night.
Bonnie decides she'd rather not have Gumball build apartments in the area and creates a butterscotch lake so that such a feat would become impossible. I would say that the reason Bonnie undermined Gumball's plans are partially out of goodwill, but primarily based in wanting to be the one in control. While Gumball is being selfish himself, he's not consulting with Bonnie and beginning to treat her like a child who is beneath him. Bonnie's lake is also a selfish act, masked as something nice.
Now, instead of worrying about his dumb city, Uncle can come here to picnic, swim, and, fish.
Bonnie may have very well fooled herself into thinking she was doing a good deed to make her uncle's life better, but she's just exerting her own need for control.
Pause. Well, hold on. I don't disagree with Uncle Gumball. You know, I'm just gonna say, what should I call him? Let's see. I'm just gonna say bald. Heck with it. Because saying Uncle Gumball seems like a really long, just constantly saying that over and over. So bald, okay, Gumball. I'll say that instead. So Gumball, he does see himself as an adult. So, you know, when she formed him, he was an adult, and she's a child, or at least has the appearance of a child. So in his mind, he's probably correct in his own mind, saying, hey, you know, you're a child, and I'm the adult, so I know better, so I'm going to do my thing. So you need to chill, girl. So I kind of understand where, you know, Gumball is coming from, a little bit. Keep in mind, he was just created, and she is the ruler of this land that's, you know, she's taken over because, you know, it's her land. So I agree with, you know, Bubblegum as well. Let's continue and play.
She's been taking care of Nettie since the two were born, but since Nettie does one single thing and nothing else, Bonnie is the one who's had to make all decisions and was the only one with a voice, so to say. It makes sense for her to subconsciously want to remain the person spearheading her establishment. After all, she did not create her gum relatives to be her equals. She says so herself, probably without realizing the implication.
You'll be my protectors, my advisors, my family.
They were meant to be her advisors. She was still supposed to remain the leader. And acting on that urge to be the leader, acting on the feeling that she knows what's best for others, that basically sets her on track to be a ruler. And at the episode's end, her place as a monarch becomes cemented. She takes on the title of princess, a word that her uncle used derisively, and owns it. I have to wonder if perhaps her self-appointed status as a princess is what led other provinces to adopt a similar princess system, as there seems to be a princess for everything in the Land of Ooo. But again, I am getting ahead of myself. For now, let's discuss Gumball's scheme to rebrand Bonnie. I like how Bonnie used the Crazy for Cuties magazine as betting for Science the Rat. Clearly, she had no interest in any of that biz. Which is something Gumball should have probably realized if he just put more thought into his plans. Your schemes suck, Gumball.
Pause. I don't know what his plans are, but I like the way he said that your plans suck, Gumball. It just felt so, like, enthusiastic about his opinion there. But, okay, going back to her self-appointing herself as a princess, let's be honest, that's a dictator move there. You can't just self-appoint yourself and just be like, hey, I'm the princess, I'm the ruler. Even though that was her land, that was her property, that is her brother Nettie. I mean, she didn't have to create, you know, this family for herself. She didn't have to create advisors, let's put that in quotation mark. She didn't have to create them and bring them to life. She, you know, she could have just kept, you know, her and Nettie the whole time, and her pet candy corn rat. I just noticed it was candy corn, by the way. So, yeah, she could have just kept the whole land to herself and didn't have to create everybody. So, technically, she owned the land. She could do what she wants. But it is a bit of a dictator move of her to just self-appoint herself as princess. Just saying, she's not in the wrong, but she's not in the right either. So, let's continue. Play.
And thus, it turns out, Mr. Cream Puff was created by Gumball to be Bonnie's boyfriend.
Hi, babe. Beep, beep.
All the candy people are like my children, except young Mr. Cream Puff. He's like my boyfriend.
Oh, Mr. Cream Puff?
We used to date.
Oh, those sweet, sweet retcons. It's interesting how in many ways, Gumball is simply copying Bonnie. She was developing Candy Town, and he decides he wants to build his own Candy City. He found out she created life, and part of his scheme against her was creating life. P-Bubs is a mad scientist in many ways, and Gumball tries to be one too. He's a jealous imitator, and I'm sure if he ever realized that Bonnie created him, he would totally flip out.
Did you say you made this creature?
Oh, Gumball, if you weren't so petty, you could have had a serious epiphany there. And yeah, obviously, I'm of the opinion that Gumball doesn't realize he's a creation. So now, I think it's time to finally talk about the primary...
Pause. Dumdum Juice. There it is. Okay. So, I thought I had something in my head to say about that. But I do remember the Dumdum Juice. It was in previous, during the beginning of this whole Learning the Lore series of Adventure Time. It was all the way back then where I first heard about that. And I know what's about to happen to y'all, which, yeah, let's continue this. And just, because he's about to talk about the retconning. And play.
Huge retcon of the episode. It turns out Manfred used to be Lolly, Crunchy used to be Chicle, and Punchy was none other than Gumball himself. Jeez, what a way to take 3 minor characters we see in the very first episode of the show and completely flip the context around them. And why is it exactly that Gumball and the others returned to their original forms? Well, remember elements?
The jelly is out of the tube!
Look at those 3, just standing over there, menacingly. But seriously, the 3 of them were made to deliberately stand next to each other, and we don't get to see the lumps revert them for obvious reasons. LSP's anti-elementification cancelled out the effects of the Dumdum Juice. I see no other alternative. What happened to Chicle and Lolly though? Perhaps Gumball disposed of them immediately after regaining his original form. Perhaps the lanky sentinel that opened the door for BMO is actually Chicle. On the topic of Cousin Chicle, it's interesting that Crunchy has twice tried to become the ruler of the Candy Kingdom throughout the series. Once in Pajama War.
Nay, Warney!
Crunchy! Crunchy! Crunchy!
To the crater!
And once at the end of the Stakes miniseries.
And instead of a wax idol, they shall have a true princess. Wrought of iron, with teeth of diamonds. Her heart is ice. Her will is fire. Princess Crunchy the Unforgiving!
This does raise questions as to whether Chicle has illusions of grandeur as well, and whether he wants to rule PB's kingdom, whereas Gumball wants his own personalized version of PB's vision.
Balls. Okay, so first off, Crunchy. Okay, so I can't ever remember the cousin's name, Chicle or something like that. Oh my gosh. Being Crunchy, just the voice. I don't know, did Chicle, I think that's his name. Did Chicle even have a voice? I don't think I've even heard it, but yeah, for him to be Crunchy and to try to take over the Candy Kingdom multiple times, that's just kind of crazy. But in my head, before I started talking about Chicle being Crunchy and stuff, in my head I was thinking about Gumball. If all he wants is his own kingdom, why not just send him down the road and say, hey, go form your own little, side, kingdom and just do what you do yourself. You don't have to take over my thing for you to be doing your own thing. But you know how that would end up panning out. He would see that the Candy Kingdom is growing and growing and then get envious and then take his kingdom and try to take over that one. So, yeah, okay. I kind of get why Gumball. I get why Bubblegum didn't allow that to happen. Let's continue. And play.
It also raises questions as to whether Chicle might play a role in future episodes before the series comes to an end. Another thing I'm curious about is how rumors about Uncle Gumball found their way to Banana Guard 16. Did Bonnie simply tell a simplified version of the story to the Banana Guards at some point, and they passed the information down? And finally, before this review comes to a close, we have to discuss how Princess Bubblegum chose to make candy citizens stupid on purpose. The Dumdum Juice was co-opted by Peebs to create candy life that was inherently docile and simple-minded. Wow, there are just so many implications for Bonnie's character now that we know this history. Bonnie took something that was supposed to bring her demise and chose to roll with it to create an entire empire. Bonnie was extremely bitter over what happened,
But they do seem happier now. So unburdened and pliable. You, the crunchy ball, dance for me!
and it really feels like the bitterness she felt at this moment colored her entire outlook. Afraid of her creations turning against her, afraid of having the infighting that occurred with her first family repeat yet again, she chose to be above them all. The only citizens and family worth having are those you can control is quite the unwholesome outlook.
Oh, okay. So, I don't disagree with her. I don't fully disagree with her. If you know good and well that you're gonna... Ah, jeez, I do disagree, though. Because what I'm saying is about to seem so freaking horrible. So, yes. Understand I'm viewing it from her perspective. Hers, not mine, because my perspective, if I can get words out of my mouth, my perspective is, hey, you need to let people be able to make their own decisions as to what they, what they want to do with their own lives. But if I'm viewing it from her perspective, hey, I just created these people who were actually able to think and do things on their own and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that again, because the last time I did that, I had one of them try to take over everything. So I'm just going to create them all stupid and, docile and just not willing to actually do much of anything at all other than being goofy. I get her perspective. I don't fault her. She's seen what could happen with, if she's seen what could happen with Gumball if she allows everyone to just be like smart. Although Peppermint Butler seems pretty smart though. Oh well, either way, let's continue. Oh wait, Peppermint Butler I don't think was one of her creations, was it? I don't know. I'll have to figure that out later. Let's continue. I'm probably going to let it play out. There's only like a minute left. And I know a majority of this is going to end up being like... It's going to end up being like the end of the video type stuff where they're like, subscribe and this and that. But yes, please go over to their channel, subscribe, all that good stuff. Either way, let's continue and play. Darn it, I did it again. Let's continue and play.
Look, Bonnie did try to break away from this perspective. Multiple times throughout the series, she created beings that had moderate or higher levels of intelligence, from the Rattleball Boys to Goliad. However, every time it seems like she tried to deviate, her intelligent creations proved problematic and had to be taken out of commission, reinforcing the notion that simple-minded creations were for the best. And perhaps part of the reason why the King of Ooo getting more votes than her hurt her so badly is because Princess Bubblegum felt that at least if the citizens were stupid, they would not betray her. Perhaps at this moment, Bonnie felt that no matter what, her beloved creations were always destined to turn against her, which makes the moment feel even more powerful and profound than it already did. I really loved this episode. It adds an entire level of groundwork to Princess Bubblegum's personality and makes a character already rich with nuances even more layered and interesting. This was an awesome backstory.
Okay, so yes, I agree that that's what channel it was. Unciviled, whatever ilk. Y'all know the channel. I've seen a few of their videos, but yes, that does add a dynamic, because you're sitting here telling me that every one of her creations goes and turns their back on her, no matter how stupid they are, no matter how smart they are, everything. They all turn their back. They even voted her out of being princess and ruler of the Candy Kingdom. And then if she gives them any more intelligence, then they end up saying, I'm going to take over, and they turn their back on her there. The only ones that haven't turned their back on her are the ones that she didn't create, like Finn, Marceline. Technically, Marceline and her broke up and stuff like that, but still didn't turn their back on her. Nettie. I don't think Nettie ever turned her back on her. I haven't heard a story yet that proclaims that he did. So it's the ones that she hasn't created herself and forced to be this domicile individual that ends up not turning their back on her. And there's something vibrating over there that I hope y'all can't hear, but if y'all can, I do apologize. It just happened to start vibrating for some weird reason over there. So, yeah, that was a distraction for me, but nonetheless, that is a big key takeaway for me is all her creations turned their back. But the ones that she didn't create all stuck with her and never turned their back on her. So there's something there about control. You got to let people make their own decisions. So, yeah, I guess that was the biggest takeaway I could take away from it. And I'm going to just leave on that note with this video because that seems like a pretty good note to end on, other than the fact that I did come in my head, I now have the theory that Candy Kingdom is in the remnants of what used to be Germany. So, yeah, hey, thank you for quitting vibrating. So, yes, now that I said something about something vibrating for the umpteenth time, I'm done. I'm passing it off to y'all. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Hit that like, tickle to subscribe. Don't be texting and driving. Watch what you love and love what you watch. And take it away, Mr. Rogers.
I like you just the way you are.